You think Libra is easy to read, graceful, charming, agreeable. But that smile, it's a shield. That silence, a battlefield. Beneath their elegance is a mind constantly calculating, a soul, quietly torn between justice and peace, truth and beauty, self and other. You'll never know what a Libra is really thinking, not because they lie, but because they balance. And some truths are too heavy to tip the scale. Stay until the end, and you'll understand the secret. Even Libras rarely admit the most mysterious part of them is the part they hide from themselves. There is a stillness in Libra that deceives, a kind of divine quiet, like the surface of a glassy lake at dawn. No wind, no ripple, only reflection. And yet beneath that calm lies a mind in constant motion, thoughts circling like doves in a marble courtyard. 1,000 considerations, 1,000 internal debates, none of them visible to you. To the world, Libra smiles, measured, beautiful, impeccably timed. But behind the expression is something few will ever see: a soul trained in diplomacy, from birth fluent in the language of emotional equilibrium, carrying the unbearable weight of everyone else's comfort on their own psychic shoulders. The stillness you see is not peace. It is control. It is effort. It is sacred containment. Because Libra doesn't think like the rest. They do not react, they assess. They do not explode, they recalibrate. Every word they utter has already passed through 1,000 internal filters. Will this offend? Will this cause imbalance? Is now the time? Is this the right tone? What emerges is rarely raw. It is refined, the art of thought, sculpted into civility. But don't mistake this restraint for absence of depth. Libra is ruled by Venus, yes, but theirs is not the Venus of softness alone. It is the Venus of judgment, of taste, of discernment. Like a curator at the temple of thought, Libra chooses what to show and what to leave behind the curtain. You may think you know them, you don't. What you see is the part they've chosen to allow. It's not deception, it's protection. Because the truth is, Libra lives in a world of perceived consequence. Every thought they reveal could disrupt the delicate web they've spent a lifetime weaving. Every opinion could fracture the peace they've worked tirelessly to maintain. And so when they smile and say, "I'm fine," what they really mean is, "You don't want to know what I'm really thinking." Even they aren't sure half the time. You may hear them agree, gently, eloquently, and walk away believing you're aligned. But what you don't see is the late-night spiral afterward, the self-questioning, the internal debate that never ends. Did I mean that? Should I have said more? What if the truth would have changed something? You see harmony. They feel pressure. You feel understood. They feel edited. The Libra psyche is a courtroom without a jury. The soul is both judge and defendant, arguing back and forth in infinite loops. And all the while their face remains calm, composed, radiant. That's the paradox. The more a Libra thinks, the less they reveal. The more they feel, the more composed they seem. Because the moment they show the rawness, the indecision, the disapproval, the pain, they risk imbalance. And for Libra, imbalance is betrayal, not just to others, but to their own sacred code. They will give you beauty. They will give you grace. They will give you just enough truth to keep the peace. But what they won't give you, not unless you've earned the deepest layers of their trust, is access to the quiet storm behind their eyes. The place where thought becomes weight and weight becomes silence. And that is why you'll never truly know what a Libra is thinking. Not because they're hiding, but because they're holding all of it for the sake of everyone else. The symbol of Libra is simple, a pair of scales, balanced, measured, impartial. But this ancient image is not just an emblem of fairness, it is a sacred code, encrypted in myth. For the scales were never just scales. They were the weapon of a goddess, the compass of divine law, the silent tool of cosmic justice. In the mythology of the stars, Libra is the only sign ruled not by an animal nor a human, but by an object. And that object belonged to Themis, the Greek goddess of divine order, who stood blindfolded with her scales raised to the heavens. She did not judge from ego, but from equilibrium. She weighed the invisible intention consequence, truth in silence, without favor, without fear. And yet when humanity descended into chaos, when justice was no longer valued, Themis left the earth. She returned to the sky, and where she stood, the constellation of Libra now glows. The scales, forever suspended, now orbit in the heavens, not in human hands. We look up at them, still wondering how to embody such impossible balance. But Libra tries. Not from arrogance, but from soul memory. There is something ancient in Libra's spirit, something priestly. They are not merely people. They are arbiters walking among us, absorbing the tones of every room, listening to what is said and unsaid, watching energies rise and fall, tracking invisible injustices like seismic shifts in the floorboards of life. They are not neutral. Neutrality is a myth. They are deliberate, subtle, precise. What looks like indecision is often a deeper form of moral intelligence. Libra does not rush to conclusions because they know the cost of a false one. They do not speak recklessly because they understand that words once spoken cannot be unspoken. This is why you'll rarely hear them erupt, why they seem forever composed. They carry the weight of judgment not as power but as burden. Every room they enter becomes a court not for others, but within themselves. The choices they make ripple outward, and they feel that ripple, intimately, painfully. To be a Libra is to stand at the threshold between two extremes, never fully in one, never fully in the other. Their soul craves justice, but their heart longs for peace. And so, they live in the tension between the two, quietly negotiating realities no one else perceives. And while you may see grace on the outside, what lives beneath is a quiet ache. The ache of knowing too much, of sensing too much, of bearing witness to all sides and feeling responsible for all of them. The scales, after all, are not balanced on their own. Someone must hold them. And for Libra, that someone is always themselves. They feel the weight of truth in one pan and the need for connection in the other. The demand for honesty versus the fear of harm. The right thing versus the kind thing. The boundary versus the bond. And in the middle, always, is them. Holding steady, smiling softly, hiding the tremble in their hands. This is why you'll never fully know what they're thinking. Because their thoughts are not linear, they are symmetrical. Because their decisions are not loud, they are sacred. Because the scales they carry are not ornaments, they are oracles. Venus rules Libra, but this is not the Venus of roses and silk sheets. This is the Venus of the mind, the architect of elegance, the philosopher of love, the strategist of beauty. While Taurus, Venus's other child, savors the tangible, the touch, the texture, the pleasure. Libra worships the ideal, the form, the ethics of attraction. To be ruled by Venus in air is to seduce with thought, not touch, to lead not with hunger but with refinement. Libras are not chasing affection, they are orchestrating it, crafting each glance, each phrase, each silence, like brushstrokes in a painting, only they can see the full shape of. You might think you're in control, but in the Libra realm, control has already changed hands, and you never noticed. Their charm is not accidental. It is curated. Their likability is not luck, it is language. Libra is fluent in social atmosphere. They speak harmony the way others speak words. Every word is balanced, every reaction rehearsed in milliseconds. Not for manipulation, but for preservation. Of peace, of beauty, of mutual dignity. Because for Libra, ugliness is not just distasteful, it's painful. Harsh words, crude gestures, blunt truths, they land like physical blows. Discord isn't just unpleasant, it's destabilizing. And so the Libra mind is constantly editing reality, polishing it, reframing it, aligning it with something more noble, more graceful. They believe in diplomacy, the way mystics believe in divinity. But don't mistake beauty for softness. Libra is air. They are thought before feeling. And thought can be sharper than any blade. Their mind cuts through noise, like a scalpel through silk. They don't need to raise their voice to win a battle. They'll dismantle your argument with one calmly delivered phrase, so balanced, so reasonable, that by the time it lands, you're questioning if you ever had a point to begin with. And yet they make you feel heard, seen, safe, because their power lies in how unthreatening it appears. This is why they're so hard to read, not because they're hiding weakness, but because their intelligence is cloaked in grace. They could outmaneuver you 5 moves ahead and still offer you tea while doing it. Their thoughts are layered, non-linear, filled with nuance and strategy, and yet wrapped in velvet. Even when they love, they do so through thought. They intellectualize desire. They analyze chemistry. They anticipate emotional risk. Love to Libra is not a fall, it is a design, a structure, a shared aesthetic. They don't just want to feel something, they want it to be beautiful. And beauty to them is never random. This is the paradox. You think their heart's first, mind second. But in truth, the mind leads, gracefully disguised as warmth. And because of that, you never truly know what they're thinking, even when you believe they've laid it all bare, because their smiles are composed sonnets, their silences strategic pauses, their words always double-lined with deeper meaning, like fine calligraphy across the mind of the soul. Venus may have given them beauty, but she also gave them mirrors. And sometimes what you see when you look into Libra is not them, it's you lovingly reflected, while their true thoughts float silently behind the glass. A Libra will nod in agreement while quietly disagreeing with everything you just said. They will compliment your insight while mentally dismantling it. They will offer you calmness, comfort, and connection, while inside a storm of unspoken truths rages with silent thunder. This isn't deceit, it's survival. Because for Libra, conflict is more than discomfort, it is disorder, and disorder is unbearable. Every confrontation, every sharp tone, every rupture in the relational field feels like a shattering of their internal architecture. They are built to balance, not to battle. So they master the art of subtle deflection, of smiling through discord, of choosing silence when their instincts scream for honesty. They may know you're wrong, they may feel betrayed, but they will nod. They will find a middle ground that costs them a piece of themselves because they cannot bear the weight of open war. And that is the tragedy hidden behind their grace. They are often torn between being true and being kind, between expressing their inner world and maintaining outer harmony. They are the emotional diplomats of the Zodiac, trained to mediate, to soothe, to bridge. But in doing so, they betray their own rawness, their own chaos, their own clarity. Because Libra is not soft, they are not neutral. They have deep convictions, sharp insights, fierce standards. But their delivery system is veiled. They will tell the truth, but not all of it. They will disagree, but gently. They will fight for something, but only after exhausting every other path. So you may never know what a Libra truly feels, because they don't want you to suffer from it. They will suffer for you instead. And this is where their internal war begins. The tension between diplomacy and authenticity, between keeping the peace and speaking the truth. And often they'll choose the former, quietly burying what they need to say in the soil of politeness. But those buried truths grow roots, deep roots, and eventually they twist. Their silence becomes resentment, their smiles strained, their love calculated. The mask of harmony begins to crack, not in anger but in sorrow, because they gave too much, agreed too often, swallowed too many truths to keep things beautiful. And beauty, when forced, becomes a cage. You'll see it in their eyes, that sudden distance, that inward retreat. The moment they stop reflecting you and disappear into themselves, they're still here, still smiling, still listening. But they've gone quiet in a new way. Not peaceful quiet, withholding quiet. And by the time you ask what's wrong, it's already too late. Libra doesn't explode, they evaporate. They'll vanish behind diplomacy, behind logic, behind excuses. They'll say everything's fine. They'll change the subject. They'll let the imbalance remain, not because they don't care, but because they care too much and no longer know how to express it. without setting fire to the bridge they worked so hard to build. This is why you'll never truly know what a Libra is thinking. Because their mind is not a place of blunt expression, it is a sanctuary. And only those who move with equal grace, equal care, and equal truth will ever be invited inside. Until then, you get the mirror, the poise, the diplomatic answer, the war they keep within. Libra is often called the mirror of the Zodiac, but few understand what that really means. It's not just that they reflect others, it's that they become them. Shapeshifters of the soul, they move through relationships like water in a vessel, taking the form of whatever or whoever surrounds them. You think you know a Libra, but what you know may be your own energy reflected back. They have an uncanny ability to tune into your rhythm, your opinions, your preferences, and match them elegantly, seamlessly. It makes them magnetic, lovable, easy to be around. They make you feel understood, validated, seen. And you truly are. But in becoming the mirror, Libra often forgets to look into one. They lose the line between reflection and self, between harmony and identity. And when you ask what they really think, what they truly want, there's a pause. Not because they're withholding, but because they don't know yet. They've been orbiting others for so long, they've lost the gravity of their own center. This is Libra's quiet agony, that their empathy is so vast, so refined, that their own desires blur at the edges. They're not faking agreement. They're absorbing yours. They're not avoiding decisions. They're waiting for all energies to settle so they can hear the whisper of their own. And this is why their thoughts remain elusive. Not only to you, but to themselves. They are a canvas on which others paint, a mediator in a room of clashing egos, a voice that smooths tension, even when tension is the only honest response. And over time, this creates a hollow, a soft ache, a question: who am I when no one else is watching? You see, Libra's identity doesn't live in isolation. It lives in relation. They define themselves through connection, through interaction, through the quality of shared space. But this makes solitude feel strange, even frightening, because in solitude there is no one to mirror, only the raw, unfiltered self. And that self is complex, conflicted, brilliant, but so often buried beneath layers of relational compromise, strategic affection, and subtle suppression. Even in romance, this pattern repeats. Libra loves to love, but their love is often curated, crafted to meet expectations, to maintain balance, to preserve aesthetics. They'll mold themselves into your perfect partner, your ideal reflection, all while forgetting that love, true love, demands revealment, not just resonance. But what if they disappoint you? What if their true thoughts disrupt the harmony? What if their real self, their unfiltered, unbalanced, fully human self, is too much, too flawed, too sharp? And so they withhold, not to manipulate, but to protect the connection they crave most, to preserve the peace they were born to create. This is the great irony. The sign of relationship often struggles to be known, not because they are empty, but because they are full of everyone else. To know what a Libra is thinking, you must do something rare: give them space without expectation. Create a container where they can be unmirrored, where they can speak without fear of shattering beauty, where silence is not tension, but trust. Only then might you catch a glimpse, a real one, of the sovereign soul beneath the mirror. Until then, all you'll see is your own reflection, filtered through their exquisite light. Balance is not peace, it's burden, and Libra was born to carry it. Behind the grace, the charm, the polished words, there is labor. Every smile is weighed, every silence deliberate. Libra is not indecisive. They're responsible for keeping the emotional ecosystem intact, even when their truth threatens to disturb it. They walk a tightrope between honesty and harmony, constantly asking, who will this hurt? What might this break? And so they withhold, not to deceive, but to preserve. They shapeshift, to fit the room, dim their fire to protect the peace. But over time, the cost becomes unbearable, because they cannot carry everyone else's comfort and still hold their own clarity. Eventually, Libra must choose to stop reflecting others and reveal themselves, to stop negotiating and decide. And when they do, the world sees their real power, not politeness, but precision, not indecision, but divine discernment. In that moment, their voice cuts through illusion, like a sword of light, not for revenge, but for justice. Because Libra was never meant to please, they were meant to restore. And that is why you'll never fully know what a Libra is thinking. Because they don't think to impress, they think to resolve. Their mind is a sacred space where truth is weighed in silence, and when they finally speak, they speak for balance itself. And if you're listening, you'll realize they've known the truth all along.